All right, hello there, cool crew of people watching live, and also hi to the people of the future, of course, watching later. We're still live from lockdown here in Valencia. I've kind of lost track of what day we're on, but this is definitely going to be chapter 10 of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. My hair is getting longer, as you can see. My temper is also getting shorter, and I think I've probably read about 80% of articles on the English Wikipedia. I'll probably have to start adding a few myself soon to keep myself entertained. Now, somebody from Belgium, who happens to be a good friend of mine, just asked me if I could try out a few yoga poses live on camera. But as you know, dear anonymous person, I have no natural ability whatsoever. So I think there's probably better channels for advice regarding yoga. Day 14, says Ollie. Goodness, day 14 of quarantine. Yeah, he knows very well because he's confined in a very, very tiny space. He's surely counting down the days. Right. Last night we met the mock turtle for the first time, who was not always the most cheerful character. Not so great for quarantine reading, but we have some singy song coming up tonight, so that might be happier. That might lighten the mood a little bit, although my singing is not great, so I will not be doing a full singing voice. Let's just pick it up where we left off, shall we? Before the banter in the chat gets completely out of hand. This is not a yoga channel. This is an evening reading channel, mind you. Here we go. Chapter 10, The Lobster Quadrille. The mock turtle sighed deeply and drew the back of one flapper across his eyes. He looked at Alice and tried to speak, but for a minute or two, sobs sort of choked his voice. Same as if he had a bone in his throat, said the Gryphon, and the Gryphon set to work shaking him and punching him in the back. At last, the mock turtle recovered his voice, and he went on again. You may not have lived much under the sea. I haven't, said Alice. And perhaps you were never even introduced to a lobster. Alice began to say, "Oh, I once tasted," but checked herself hastily and said, No, never. So you can have no idea what a delightful thing a lobster quadrille actually is. No, indeed, said Alice. What sort of dance is it? Why, said the Gryphon, you first form into a line along the seashore. 2 lines, said the mock turtle. Seals, turtles, salmon, and so on. And then, when you've cleared all the jellyfish out of the way... Oh, that generally takes some time, interrupted the Gryphon. You advance twice. Yes, each with a lobster as a partner, said the Gryphon. Of course, the mock turtle said. So, advance twice, set to partners, change lobsters, and retire in same order, continued the Gryphon. Then, you know, the mock turtle went on, you throw the lobsters, shouted the Gryphon, with a bound into the air, as far out to sea as you can. And swim after them, screamed the Gryphon. Turn a somersault in the sea, cried the mock turtle, capering wildly about. And then change lobsters again, yelled the Gryphon at the top of its voice. Back to land again, and that's all the first figure, said the mock turtle. Suddenly he dropped his voice, and the 2 creatures, who had been jumping about like the mad things all this time, sat down again very sadly and quietly, and looked at Alice. Oh, it must be a very pretty dance, said Alice. Would you like to see a little of it? Said the mock turtle. Oh, very much indeed, said Alice. Come, let's try the first figure, said the Mock Turtle to the Gryphon. We can do without lobsters, you know. Which shall sing? Oh, you sing, said the Gryphon. I've forgotten the words. So they began suddenly dancing round and round Alice, every now and then treading on her toes when they passed too close, and waving their forepaws to mark the time, while the Mock Turtle sang this. Will you walk a little faster? Said a whiting to a snail. There's a porpoise close behind us, and he's treading on my tail. See how eagerly the lobsters and the turtles all advance. They're waiting on the shingle. Will you come and join the dance? No. Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? You can really have no notion how delightful it will be when they take us up and throw us with the lobsters out to sea. But the snail replied, too far, and gave a look askance. Said he thanked the whiting kindly, but he would not join the dance. He would not, could not, would not, could not join the dance. Would not, could not, would not, could not join the dance. What matters it how far we go? His scaly friend replied. There is another shore, you know, upon the other side. The further off from England, the nearer is to France. Then turn not pale, beloved snail, but come and join the dance. Ooh, will you, won't you, will you, won't you, will you join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? Thank you. It's a very interesting dance to watch, said Alice, feeling very glad that it was over at last. And I do so like that curious song about the whiting. Oh, as to the whiting, said the Mock Turtle. You've seen them, of course. Yes, said Alice. I've often seen them at dinner. Oh. And then she checked herself hastily. Oh, I don't know where dinner may be, said the Mock Turtle. But if you've seen them so often, of course you know what they're like. I believe so, Alice replied. They have their tails in their mouths, and they're all over crumbs. You're wrong about the crumbs, said the Mock Turtle. Crumbs would all wash off in the sea, but they have their tails in their mouths. And the reason is... And here the Mock Turtle yawned and shut his eyes. Tell her about the reason and all that, he said to the Gryphon. Well, the reason is, said the Gryphon, that they would go with the lobsters to the dance. So they got thrown out to sea, so they had to fall a long way. So they got their tails fast in their mouths, so they couldn't get them out again. And that's all. Thank you, said Alice. It's very interesting. I never knew so much about a whiting before. I can tell you more than that, if you like, said the Gryphon. Do you know why it's called a whiting? Oh, I never thought about it, said Alice. Why? It does the boots and shoes, the Gryphon replied. Alice was thoroughly puzzled. Does the boots and shoes? She repeated. Why, what are your shoes done with? Said the Gryphon. I mean, what makes them so shiny? Alice looked down at them and considered a little before she gave her answer. My shoes are done with blacking, I believe. Now, boots and shoes under the sea, the Gryphon went on in a serious tone, they are done with a whiting. Now you know. And what are they made of? Alice asked in a tone of curiosity. Soles and eels, of course, the Gryphon replied rather impatiently. any shrimp could have told you that. If I'd been the whiting, said Alice, whose thoughts were still running on the song, I'd have said to the porpoise, "Keep back, please. We don't want you with us." They were obliged to have him with them, the Mock Turtle said. No wise fish would go anywhere without a porpoise. "Wouldn't it really?" said Alice, in a tone of great surprise. "Of course not," said the Mock Turtle. "Why, if a fish came to me and told me he was going a journey, I should say, 'With what purpose?'" "Don't you mean purpose?" said Alice. "I mean what I say," the Mock Turtle replied, a bit offended. And the Gryphon hastily added, "Come, let's hear some of your adventures." "I could tell you my adventures, beginning from this morning," said Alice a little timidly, "but it's no use going back to yesterday, because I was a different person then." "Please do explain all that," said the Mock Turtle. No, the adventures first," said the Gryphon in an impatient tone. "Explanations take such a dreadful time." So Alice began telling them her adventures from the time when she first saw the White Rabbit. She was a little nervous about it just at first. The two creatures got so close to her, one on each side, and opened their eyes and mouths so very wide, but she gained courage as she went on. Her listeners were perfectly quiet until she got to the part about her repeating, "You're old, Father William," to the caterpillar, and the words all coming different, and then the Mock Turtle drew a long breath and said, "That's very curious." "It's all about as curious as it can be," said the Gryphon. "It all came different," the Mock Turtle replied thoughtfully. "I should like to hear her try and repeat something now. Tell her to begin." He looked at the Gryphon as if he thought it had some kind of authority over Alice. "All right, stand up and repeat, "'Tis the voice of the sluggard,'" said the Gryphon. "Oh, how the creatures order one about and make one repeat lessons," thought Alice. "I might as well be at school." However, she got up and began to repeat it, but her head was so full of the lobster quadrille that she hardly knew what she was saying, and the words came very queer indeed. "'Tis the voice of the lobster, I heard him declare, You've baked me too brown, I must sugar my hair. As a duck with its eyelids, so he with his nose trims his belt and his buttons, and turns out his toes." "That's different from what I used to say when I was a child," said the Gryphon. "Well, I never heard it before," said the Mock Turtle, "but it sounds uncommon nonsense." Alice said nothing. She sat down with her face in her hands, wondering if anything would ever happen in a natural way again. "I should like to have it explained," said the Mock Turtle. "She can't explain it," said the Gryphon. "Just go on with the next verse." "But how about his toes?" the Mock Turtle persisted. "How could he turn them out with his nose, you know?" "It's the first position in dancing," Alice said. But she was feeling dreadfully puzzled by the whole thing, and longed to change the subject. "Go on with the next verse," the Gryphon repeated impatiently. "It begins with, 'I passed by his garden.'" Alice did not dare to disobey, though she felt sure it would all come wrong, and she went on in a trembling voice. "I passed by his garden, and marked with one eye how the owl and the panther were sharing a pie." "What is the use of repeating all that stuff," the Mock Turtle interrupted, "if you don't explain it as you go on? It is by far the most confusing thing I've ever heard." Yes, I think you'd better leave off, said the Gryphon, and Alice was only too glad to do so. Shall we try another figure of the lobster quadrille? The Gryphon went on. Or would you like the Mock Turtle to sort of sing you a song? Oh, a song, please, if the Mock Turtle would be so kind, Alice replied, so eagerly that the Gryphon said, in a rather offended tone, no accounting for tasters. Sing her turtle soup, will you, old fella? The Mock Turtle sighed a bit, and began to half-sing this. Beautiful soup, so rich and green, waiting in a hot tureen. Who for such dainties would not stoop? Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. Beautiful soup, beautiful soup, soup of the evening. Who cares for fish, game, or any other dish? Who would not give all else for 2 pennyworth only of beautiful soup? Soup. It's time for the chorus again, cried the Gryphon, and the Mock Turtle just began to repeat it, when suddenly a cry was heard in the distance. The trial is beginning! Come on, said the Gryphon, and taking Alice by the hand, it hurried off, without waiting for the end of the song. What trial is it? Alice panted as she ran, but the Gryphon only answered, Come on, and ran the faster, while more and more faintly came, carried on the breeze that followed them, the melancholy words. Soup of the evening, beautiful soup. All right, this was a little bit confusing. So much instructions to do singing and then half singing. A little bit too ambitious for my reading voice. Really, apologies. No, I didn't really skip a bit. It really did say that it was time for the chorus again, and then I was sort of saved by the bell by the next paragraph. So very glad about that indeed. I do feel that we're getting closer to the probably quite nonsensical catharsis of our story. I can feel there might be a bit of a trial coming up in the next chapter. Well, in fact, I'm not going to spoil it for you because the chapter 11 has a very revealing title, and chapter 12 should give a little bit of closure. Thank you all very much for being so present, live audience from France, Belgium, Spain, respectively. Very nice indeed. I can see some nice use of emojis, even by the older generation, which is excellent. I hope to see you all tomorrow evening for chapter 11, and then we can finish it off on Sunday evening, the grand finale. Hope to see you there tomorrow and the day after. Stay safe in quarantine, and thank you very much for tuning in. Goodbye.